What is up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Thanks for joining us today on this podcast episode. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. All that good stuff definitely helps us out. And we're excited to bring this content to you. Hopefully you're enjoying this. Definitely share it with a friend if you get the chance to do that. So appreciate that. Today I bring another special guest on. Her name is Jessica Wellcome. She actually is from New York, and she works for the New York State Department of Transportation. Has been there for quite some time. But what's interesting about her journey in preparing for her PE exam is she actually graduated as in architecture and found her way preparing for the FE and slugging through that, and then getting through her PE exam, which took a few tries, but she was able to do it. So it was a pretty fascinating story. She used a lot of the material from Civil Engineering Academy, so we wanted to bring her on and share her journey with you. Pretty inspiring if you find yourself as someone that's in a similar background in architecture that's looking to prepare to pass the PE exam. This definitely will be an episode for you, but for anyone else preparing for the PE exam, it's also a good episode as well. So again, really great episode with Jessica. I think you're really going to enjoy this one, and appreciate you just being here and checking it out. So I'm going to go ahead and shut up. Without further ado, we'll get to my interview with Jessica. It's going to be coming up right after this. All right, Jessica, we're rocking and rolling. Thank you for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you jumping on and sharing your story with us.
No problem. I'm glad to be invited to share my notes and share my thoughts and my journey.
Well, I always start these out. I think it's helpful for people to hear your background. So could you give us a little bit of insight into your own background, your life, what you're doing for work, why you wanted the PE exam, kind of those kind of details?
Well, out of some students might encounter where they're not sure of what they want to do or what major they want to go to. I ended up going into engineering science, and then the struggles of classes being canceled, not enough students interested in it, they would end up canceling it around the time that the school would start, or the semester would start. So I ended up with a mathematics degree in liberal arts mathematics. And while I was going through that, I ended up taking classes that would transfer over to another school for architectural engineering technology. So I have a lot of mixture in there as my journey. And I ended up going to a job that requires a lot of engineers or transportation analysts. I actually work for the government civil service job, in which, in order to move up, requires you to have a license in the certain anarchy or stages in the career. Otherwise, you end up reaching top of grade, and then you have to look at other options, or you're pretty much good with where you are at, or status quo, which a lot of my colleagues are. They just end up, and I'm good where I'm at. I don't want the extra stress. I don't want the extra pressure. So there's a lot of mixture of that, of people who want to pursue further and other people that they're good with what they have right now. So that's a little background of that. As far as, go ahead.
So what do you like? What do you do on the daily? What's the daily work that's going on in your world?
So in my particular group, we end up responding to people that bring up safety concerns about the roadways, and we try to address and sure we go out there, do certain studies that, depending on what the request is or what the concerns are. And we try to see with the existing geometry, crash history, if there is anything that can be done, whether, it's changing the light system or the configuration or adding additional signs. Now, we know people are going to just drive the way they're going to drive. There's no way to control motorists, even though like we will get some people complaining about what other motorists are doing. Well, again, we're not that type of agency. That's more the police agency. We just end up putting safety features out there and seeing what we can do to improve it with studies, warrant analysis that we end up having in the NYTCD, the National Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. We use that a lot, and we try our best. And some situations where the geometry is just so grandfathered in that there's little to, you're kind of limited as what we can do.
Plus, you have a big budget, right?
Right. And, it really depends on like, okay, what's the highest up here, and then what's the least important. Of course, safety is number one, but imagine how many roadways we have, all those miles of roadway. And
right.
So we're limited. I mean, there's different departments that do each little thing, different, whether pavement or dealing with signs or doing pavement markers. There's various departments that get involved with that.
Well, that's interesting. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like your path to getting your PE exam done and over with and is a little bit different, even with your schooling background. And then you find yourself working here. And so there's a desire now. You're motivated to get your PE license. You see that there's a better career path for you by getting this license. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right. Go in architectural engineering technology and then end up in the civil engineering world. I got to see both worlds. Architects not so kind, but engineers, they think differently, and then you have engineers that think differently from the architects. Architecture, with aesthetics, and then engineering where it's like, okay, what's solid, what's going to stay. Oh, is that beautiful? I don't know, but it works. If you'll get a lot of that back and forth of, but I ended up being architectural engineering technology. I was able to experience both a little bit about construction engineering and also the design aspect.
So, I mean, you had to pass your FE exam. When did you end up taking that? Were you in school or after school?
That was probably a year after, but that was back in 2008. I ended up passing the FE. Yeah, so grandfathered back in over there, and getting the FE was also a stabilizing position or moving up in the ladder. And as far as the PE, at first I wasn't sure if I was going to go for it or it was my thing, but look at me now,
Right.
I ended up going for it, and it doesn't matter how many times you end up taking it. It ends up helping you learn each time that you end up taking it, So you end up learning something new, which, sometimes it's nice to pass on the first time, but you end up passing on the first time, but you end up utilizing it at your workplace too,
Right.
And I have an opinion too of people that are able to take the state exam. It doesn't matter where you are. Like if you're in New York, you could take the New Jersey. You could board. You could apply for Connecticut. There's like different standards. Like New Jersey and Connecticut apparently don't require you to have the experience in there in order to take the exam. So they allow people to register for the exam. But my feeling is they go and take the exam, they pass it, but then they slack off on putting the experience in, and then it's like, you have this exam, you passed it, but what are you doing? Did you really want to go for that? it's just mixed feelings as far as that. It's great that they're given that opportunity before the experience, but you want that experience to learn too.
There's a lot of states that are decoupling the exam requirement from the experience requirement. So you can go take that exam really early on and wait till you get the 4 years of experience to get your license. So did you end up taking your PE exam then in New York? Is that where you took it?
Yes, since I had everything already submitted in New York, I felt that it was like easier just to stick with New York.
And at that time, did you already have the experience requirement good? Check mark.
Well, since I was architectural engineer technology, but ABET, I was given 6, so I needed at least 6 years of work experience.
I got you.
And I wasn't given the 8. And so then you have to have qualifying experience. So it's also, too, how you end up writing the experience. Some states are different. In school, they tell you to stay away from I. But in this particular case, they want to know what you do. So you want to say, I did this.
That's right.
Prepared this. So it's a lot of like making sure that you jot down everything. The only problem was, too, I didn't do that through the years, so I had to backtrack it. So one recommendation for everybody is, even if you're not like planning it, jot down your experience, because it makes that much easier if you have to end up submitting, even for your resume. It just makes it a lot easier.
I totally agree. Jot your experiences down, your projects, because you slowly forget what you worked on years ago, and all of those qualify. So that's awesome. Well, I'm super impressed. With the degree you got, you were able to take the PE exam and get this thing done. What was the biggest hurdle with preparing? I'm assuming you took the transportation exam.
Yes, I took the PE civil transportation.
So what was the biggest challenge for you and kind of your background and then taking that exam?
I think the biggest hurdle was actually allocating the time. Because the other times that I ended up probably like, oh, I hope I did it. I hope I got it. After thinking about it, I didn't really spend that time that I should have spent. And also I was going with the team, and there was a group of colleagues of mine and myself that would go and take it. Oh, and when I said like, yeah, I don't feel that comfortable, I think I'm going to sit this one out because, I want to prep more. One of them thought that I was crazy, and you have to listen to your gut. And at the end of the day, you're the one that's taking the exam. You're the one that's going to be at the computer. You're the one answering those questions. You're not going to have like, hey, what's it, Can you help me out? Help me out. Those, what was it? The weakest link, one of those options. They're like, call a friend or call the audience. Yes.
Yeah. Phone a friend.
Phone friend, yes.
Oh, man. Well, it's really impressive what you've done. I think that's awesome. Could you describe kind of the scenario? I don't know if it's a worst case scenario, or what was your mindset that led you to the road of discovering Civil Engineering Academy? Why did you feel like you needed a course? What was your mindset?
Well, I've tried others in the past, and the time wasn't right. And I saw yours. You had people explain the problems so much more, like break them down like ABC, or 1, 2, 3. It was more simplified. And the fact that, too, that you offer the practice exam, it was a great opportunity to see where I was at, too. And again, to practice on all these different problems, because you don't know what you're going to get. And my other important thing or rule is to see what the references are. Get familiar with where things are, because you're not going to know everything. You can try and practice, but as long as you know where they are and practice all the problems that you're familiar with, you'll do well. Because that was the key thing of taking that extra time. I took over a week or two to just focus on practicing exam questions and just going with when you're familiar with that area and you think you're good, go to the next area. Because if you just focus on one thing, well, you're going to ace the one section, but you're not going to get everything else.
Right. So a lot of people that take transportation are overwhelmed by kind of the amount of codes and standards that they feel like they have to know really well. What would be your advice for them? Did that just come from practicing problems, or did you actually have to sit down and study and thumb through the codes and standards as well? How did you go about tackling all the reference material?
Well, for the most part, I knew that it was horizontal, vertical curves that were my weak area. But after some practicing of the certain problems, I ended up getting a better handle of it. And the most thing was just continuously practicing, I believe, getting really familiar. I mean, in my line of work, we're always in the NCEES. I actually memorized, because of all of this practicing, each chapter, what each chapter is. Chapter 1 is your general, chapter 2 is your signs, chapter 3 is your pavement markings, chapter 4 is your traffic signal, chapter 5, I could go on to chapter 9, but where 9 is more your bikes and more facilities, I believe. So that if you're dealing with the 9 section. 7 is school areas.
So it sounds like it was a combination of you're already using it at work, right, plus you're doing practice problems. And between those two, you were kind of able to get pretty comfortable with the codes and standards.
Right. And now, you even have a better understanding of, because I'm dealing in the civil engineering aspect, is how the horizontal and vertical curve have come into play with profiles.
That makes sense. Well, how long did it take you to prepare for the exam? What advice would you give to someone else?
I would say, for the FE, I studied for 6 months. But back then it was all general and it was 8 hours long. Nowadays it's 5 hours, I believe, for
the FE. 6 hours they give you, yeah. A little less with some of the other stuff, but
right. And I would probably say give a couple of months up, and when you feel like you're ready, I know it's hard to with scheduling, but if you schedule something and you feel that you're not ready, I would end up rescheduling it, or at least taking it the first time so you get familiar with how the format is. Because if you get familiar and keep track of time, the good thing about that they went to computerized is that your time, whatever you spent on the first, continues over to the second. When I ended up taking the SV, you didn't have that. It's just the 4 hours morning part, and then 4 hours for the second half. So now that we're getting computerized, it's a lot different. And now that we changed the format, it might even be more different. So now that it's just transportation discipline and not any general soils like construction, I was even more determined to take it before it ended up changing, because I was so used to the other format too.
So it sounds like a few months it took you to prepare for
definitely a couple of months. I would also too keep track of the updated handbook that they end up offering.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a course creator, and that's kind of one of the real thorns in my side because those things get updated so frequently. It's a challenge to keep up with, but get the latest handbook, make sure you get the latest specs, and the latest codes and standards. So those are all good things to keep in mind. Could you walk me through the day you got the results?
I was like in disbelief. I had to because of the couple of times that I didn't make it, I couldn't even believe myself. I remember that day. I ended up I didn't want to look at it. I was even babysitting that afternoon, and my brother-in-law convinced me to just take a look. Just take a look. And I'm like, you know what? Green. Wait a minute. Okay, log out. Log back in. And, I was so excited. I had to text everybody, I passed. Because, to have that, it's a great feeling. I'm like, now what am I going to do? Now, because studying does take a lot,
Oh, yeah, it's a part-time job.
Of course. You never know what's going to pop up, or, or you got this emergency thing to go to, or, and family, you can't predict that either.
So you had to take the exam, it sounds like a couple times. Would you share how many that took you, or how many times that took you?
Well, I would say the times that I've actually took the time and focused were maybe it's the 3 times, but I took it 3 additional times, but that was when it was paper. So
okay. That was a while ago then.
Yeah, and then COVID happened, and then at that time it was a struggle because then they required to have you to have a mask. It might be a personal thing, and then I'm like, I don't want to focus on my breathing. Yeah. I want to focus on the exam.
Oh, pain.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'll wait until they come back. They'll give me better preparation time, for it. And look, I just went on my own, and and I was still around the time that I was still with my group. So,
well, that's amazing. I think your story is super inspirational for other people that come from the same background and are trying to get this exam done and over with. And you just kept going. I guess what advice would you give to someone that is struggling to pass? A lot of times we get people that come through our course that are repeat takers. I'm just curious what advice you would give them in terms of mentality or maybe strategy on how to keep going.
I would end up giving them the strategies like, don't give up. If this is what you want and you need to move up in your career, don't give up. You'll get it. This time might have not been your time, but one time will be. Just keep on pursuing and take the time that you need. I'm sure your bosses will allow you to have that extra time allocated. They're not going to step in your way, Just ask them, I need extra time, Yeah. And sometimes you might not want to end up forecasting that, I'm going to take the exam. And just give it sometimes to yourself. That helps too, and just you surprise yourself. You could have study groups, too, to go over things. But, sometimes you have to have a plan. You have to have a schedule because this person might be on this construction section, or this person might be in soils. Again, that's the older format. So if you are able to find somebody that is taking the same exact exam, that would help too.
Perfect. Well, you mentioned our exam simulator in the course. Are there any other specific features in the course that really helped you prepare for the exam?
I watched a lot of YouTubes of with the Civil Engineering Academy. And a lot of the instructors were very clear on those, and you could slow it down if it's going too fast. And it just helped a lot watching the videos and then practicing. And take your time, breathe. If you don't know the answer right away, skip to the next one, because you'll be able to go back and review those questions. That's another feature I like of the electronic version of the exam. You're going to be able to go back and review those questions that you're not sure of. So then you could allocate the time. Because if you you want to try to spend less than 6 minutes on each question. Because if you don't know it right there, you might want to push on to the next one, and then it'll give you more time at the end to go back to it.
Definitely makes sense. Was there any surprises that you felt came out of nowhere on the exam? Or do you feel like, oh, they've done this to me before, or they've asked similar things in the past? Or was there anything like, whoa, what are they asking for here? Or there's a lot of theory now, or any weird
Well, there was a couple of chip generations that popped up, and I'm like trying to remember basic math. And, you're so far after college that you're like trying to remember, okay, what's the antiderivative, or what is ln of this, or what's, and that would probably be the one that popped up, is more like the certain economic questions or the chip generation questions. And then there might be a similar question with that answer in the exam itself.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there wasn't too many. There weren't a lot of questions that really popped up, because I've done it a couple of times. So it really wasn't too bad, but the ones that really were like a struggle were the higher capacity. They might ask the level of service. They might ask, trying to think, the weaving formulas. So I have that in my head right now. So. Or they might just ask a simple, conflict points. Or phases, or okay, would you put a stop sign here, or would you put a traffic signal here? They might ask some things out of the blue like that. I've seen in the past. And then there might be some questions that they end up sticking around that they always ask. But with the new format, it might be different, So there was just always the one question. They would just end up asking a different way, or they might be asking a different part of the question. Now, there was an impact one too, like Newton's law. MV equals MV, the plus this, so you had get one, but in order to get to that one, you have to backtrack to the other one. You got to get one answer to the other answer to get the final answer.
Oh boy.
They had you going through hoops.
Sounds like a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this has been fascinating. I think just your experience has been amazing. And some of the tips you've shared with us have been amazing too. If you had a friend preparing for this exam, I'm just curious, what kind of advice would you give to them in terms of taking a course or not taking a course? And how did you tackle practice exams? Did you take them timed, or did you take them like the real environment, or just study them like practice problems?
To my friend, I would actually recommend that they would take a course, just also to get their feet wet, especially if they have not been around the career for a while, or even college for a while, because practice what, if use it or lose it, right? that saying. You know, if you don't use a certain app, whatever, and you're like, how do I do this thing again? I created Excel tables in my group to try to keep track of things, and they have all these different formulas in there. So I have to backtrack, and I'm like, how did I? Okay, but I would definitely recommend that they take a course, and then also on the side practice. It'd be a combination of both, taking the extra time, when everybody's out of the house, that would be the ideal time, or, go to the library, take that initial time, get the earbuds, or go into the quiet room and just take the time that you need,
Makes sense.
That's the best thing I could say to people, because everybody's mind is different. Everybody was taught differently. Teachers teach differently. When I ended up talking to a friend about a math problem, I showed them how I was taught, and they're like, "Oh, that's so much simpler." So why my teachers teaching me this? So everybody thinks differently.
It's always nice to find a better way.
Of course. And you got to prove people wrong that they don't think that you know certain things. Maybe I'm just not showing all my skills. But it's good to keep it at bay and know that people don't know certain things. But taking the extra time for yourself, and being true to yourself, those are the key things. Because only you will know if you are ready to take the exam. Only you. Your friends might say like, "Oh, come on, you can take it with us, right?" Like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm still not comfortable with this topic here. Well, it's all the peer pressure, team pressure.
That is very true. Well, Jessica, this has been awesome. Thanks for sharing your tips and your advice with everybody. If somebody had a question or they wanted to reach you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
I am part of the forum and Civil Engineering Academy. So if they want to send me like a text or message from there, that's probably the best way. Other than that,
join our course. You'll get to talk to Jessica. I like that. And I guess just kind of wrap it up, but what's a reason you would recommend Civil Engineering Academy to someone else?
The reason I would end up recommending it is because it's very down to earth. If you have any questions, if you find that you're unsure of certain things, they're easy to talk to. Just reach out to them, and you'll probably see it in the next review.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, thank you for doing this, and maybe we'll talk to you in the future.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.